Hey everyone, my name is David Katleski. I'd like to invite you to brewing operations and brewing mechanical maintenance. The mechanical aspect of it has been omitted. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome Brendan to say a few things about Over It, who is the sponsor for this particular session. So without further ado.
Yeah, hey, good afternoon. Thanks for having us. Over It is a marketing communications firm based here in Albany. We have national clients. We do a lot of work with brewers, distillers, ciders, and we help people tell their story, connect with audiences, make money. We do digital branding, PR. Also, there's sort of banners around. We have a booth upstairs. We could just help you guys take your business to the next level, engaging with customers, and really just sort of telling your story in great ways. And not the reason you're here, but I just want to thank you for coming and all you do.
Thanks so much. I'll give you a quick story before we jump right into this. In 2003, myself, Finn DeMink, and Chris Erickson from Lake Placid, Finn DeMink, Southern Tier, decided to start the New York State Brewers Association. Mostly, there are only 38 breweries in New York State. And the reason why we did is because we were kind of fighting amongst ourselves and not against the big guys. So we unified, and I ended up drawing the short end of the stick, meaning I ended up being the president of the board and running the association for a number of years on a volunteer basis until we finally got the money together to bring Paul Leone on board. And Paul literally we started with less than $50 in the bank. And 6 of us all bucked up to pay his first year's salary and said, if you're going to work a second year, it's up to you. And Paul's did a remarkable job. I don't think never in our wildest dreams did we think it would turn into this. Attendance, even though it's a sluggish market, attendance is still strong. We're about where we were last year, which is great. The gentleman to my left, Chris, who is the founder of Ultimate Brew Services, and Justin were both judges at the competition that I was involved with as well. The competition was outstanding. We had just as many entries this year as we did last year. We had more judges this year. We had 72 judges, which was outstanding. So that means we drank less beer. And trust me, from the year before, that was a good thing. I think we had 45 judges the year before. But without further ado, so I owned breweries for 25 years. 5 years ago, sold. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I've been consulting for the last 5 years. And one of the things that I see commonly amongst breweries is broken equipment that's not properly repaired, a tremendous amount of just not clean environments that are in. And we're not talking about the cleanly environment now, but it all leads to the same thing. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Chris. Well, Justin's going to start, I believe.
Sure, yeah.
And we'll take questions. Do you mind questions during the presentation, or you want to wait till the end?
Questions can be asked throughout the
So we'll just have a free,
Sure.
open conversation
Yeah.
while they're doing the presentation. Thank you for attending.
Awesome. So my name is Justin O'Donohue. This is Chris. We own Ultimate Brew Service. We started off just going around to breweries and fixing their pumps. And we have extensive experience with chillers, boilers, really generally anything that has a motor. We are maintaining and installing around New York. So we're excited to share what we've learned about brewery maintenance over the years. Today we're going to go over the main areas. Today we're going to be going over our chillers, boilers, heat exchangers, pumps, and finally the air compressor. All of these are incredibly critical pieces that can go underlooked. So why are we up here? Well, like I said, we've been doing this for a while, and our mission has always been to sustain and improve craft beer. So this is kind of more on the sustaining side. Of course, we have more improving equipment and stuff upstairs, but this is all about honing in on what you already have and making sure it continues to work for you. So, tell us a little more about yourself, Chris.
Yeah, so I started the business in 2018, guys. My background originally was dairy farms. I spent my time traveling all around New York State, building dairy farms. I also got into the production of yogurt, milk, things like that, so processing plants as well. Quite a bit of experience there. I basically saw this market. I didn't know much about it. I was pretty young and started seeing the breweries and all the stainless tanks and things like that. I'm a certified sanitary welder as well, so the business kind of played a role in it. But I've been doing it for over 10 years now, and I've seen a lot of different things in a lot of different settings. So not just breweries, right, but those other production facilities that might be doing it at an exponentially better level or lower level, right? And seeing that difference between it and kind of collaborating it, bringing it together, and getting a good package for all the breweries around here.
Yep. So again, that is what we do for a living. So we'll share our knowledge here. We're gonna start with chillers. This is the simplest way to start. So chillers and walk-ins, right? So they both have very similar condensing units. The entire concept of the chiller is to remove heat. I'm sure you've heard the terms before where there's no such thing as cooling something, there's only removing of heat. That is just what it is. Doesn't exist. Cooling is not a thing. So how do we even remove heat? It's literally with fans. So keeping your fans clear of debris. This could be like garbage, that someone dropped in your parking lot. This could be cottonwood, especially in the fall and summer, where if those fins on the back are clogged, you are going to have a less efficient unit. It's just simple. So every week, take a peek. I mean, it's probably on your way to your car, on the way when you're done with your shift or whatever you're doing. Look back there, see if it's clear of debris, see if it's clear of cottonwood. In the fall and summer, you should be checking it much more often. Leaves, cottonwood, it's all going to be stuck to the back of your side of your chiller. If you're not having airflow, you're not cooling, in quotation marks, aka removing heat. This goes for the motors as well. So on the back of the motors, you're gonna have fans too.
Yeah, you can see that photo.
You'll see a fan motor. If that gets clogged up, it's the exact same thing. You're gonna have overheating of your motor, which is going to then overheat your unit, which is then going to kick
those
off
fans
all
are
that heat.
doing the cooling through your electric motor. So you guys got to have free flowing air through those electric motors, right? Those start to get clogged up. They can trip out on thermal overload, right? The fan stops going running, then your unit's going to trip out on high head. Your chiller's going to shut down. So making sure that everything is totally clear. The fins are cleaned and clear. The fans are cleaned and clear. You guys are checking these things out and making it done, or get on a maintenance program with somebody that is doing this work for you.
Yep. So that could be probably the most simple thing you can do. Just gonna start simple and kind of escalate. So the next very simple thing you can do is making sure you have glycol levels, right? Checking that every week or so. Generally, you'll have a sight glass that will tell you where it is, and you should be, making sure that it's within range with a refractometer. 20 to 25 Brooks range will keep you happy. And then, look for leaks. If you have a leaky glycol system, like I'm talking about the piping and everything else, a little trick you can do is filling it with food coloring. We've done that plenty of times where you just use a bunch of food coloring in there and you don't know where the leak is. You'll see red or whatever color you put in there and you go, oh, that's where it's leaking.
Start to trace.
Cool.
back.
And then you can kind of go from there. It's not really maintenance reserved, but just more generally something to do if you are having issues and losing glycol. It's not evaporating.
It's not cheap either, so you want to find those leaks and get them fixed.
Yeah. So that is the most simple things you can do whatsoever on a chiller or walk-in cooler. So yeah, those are kind of closer flows. The one on the right is a foaming cleaner that you can buy that you can spray down, and it's like a foaming kind of alkaline cleaner. So yeah, anyways, go a little more advanced. Pardon the noise, I guess. Thanks to Chris.
Yes. So on your chillers, guys, if you open up your panels, these are a little more advanced things, but if you want to get into it without actually diagnosing or actually hooking up gauges to your chiller and knowing what's going on with your refrigerant, things you can do. Looking at your electrical panel and making sure you don't have any burned wires, right? We don't want to see any burned wires or broken wires, exposed electrical components. That's going to cause problems. So get those addressed as soon as possible. In that middle video there, so that not every chiller has this, but I would say 90% of them now do. That's going to be your sight glass. So that's located usually before your heat exchanger, your braze plate that's actually doing the exchanging of the heat. While the unit is running, so let's say your unit just fired up and it's going to run, from 32 back down to 28. You give it about 30 seconds after running, and that sight glass should be completely filled up, okay? So if you're seeing bubbles like this in your unit while it's running, you're low on Freon, and you're actively losing Freon. They're a closed system. So once these units are charged, they essentially should never leak, right? So if you're starting to see something like this, it's not exactly always a low charge, but it could potentially mean there's something going on with your refrigerant system that needs to be further diagnosed and checked out. You have to have a licensed guy to come check it. So simple thing, checking that. Once it fires up, on initial fire up, you might see a couple bubbles on initial fire up and ending, but in the middle of your stage of it running, usually about 30 seconds after it running, that sight glass should get cleared up and sending full liquid to your valve. So that's kind of another one that is on most units. You can look at it without having to hook up gauges and in no pressures of refrigerant, basically, right? Do you have a question? Oh, sorry. Okay, in the photo all the way to the right, that's going to be basically a flooded over compressor. So if your compressor, the big black, blue, whatever color it is, I guess, is a complete ice ball, more than likely what's probably going on is your evaporator's frozen over. You're not actually getting flow through your plate, and you're flooding over the compressor. If you see that, essentially you're going to start to ruin your compressor. The compressors can't handle that liquid coming back to the compressor. So basically, visually, if you're looking at it and the thing's a complete huge ice ball, you probably want to call somebody and get it checked out.
So these are things
It's not normal.
These are things that are, going to look for as far as if you're having an issue.
Easier things to look at without having to, have a set of gauges.
Yep.
Obviously, there's more in depth that you can go. If you got a technician that's having a hard time finding the leak or can't get it, there are such things as a UV dye that can be injected into the system that then we can use a blue light with yellow goggles to identify, microscopic leaks. If you have a chiller call and you guys are keep continuously calling people back to recharge your unit because they can't find the leak or things like that, you might want to suggest doing a dye injection or something like that. Yep. The photo to the right is going to be, that's what a leak basically looks like, right? So you're looking for an oily residual substance. You'll see debris starting to build up on it because you're physically losing oil out of the system. So it will, it'll look similar to that of a darker matter, oily matter around your system. If you see that, obviously you'd want to get those things addressed.
Yep. Much like the glycol system, it's a closed system. It should not be. No one should be coming back every couple of months to recharge your unit. There is a problem. There is a leak to be found. So that is a overview of chillers. We could take a chiller question now or save it to the end. It's up to you guys.
Go ahead.
So,
How you mentioned small leak with refrigerant in line. How often do you, for our units, what we've seen the full charge just drop suddenly. Just curious, how often do you actually see a small leak? If you notice it.
How long will it take? It all depends on the system and the unit and where the leak is, right? I've had units that, literally release an ounce, couple ounces a year, and it's very, very microscopic. You probably wouldn't notice if you bought a unit brand new and had a microscopic leak. You might not know it for 5 years. It could take that long. There's units that hundreds of pounds versus a couple pounds. So if it's a smaller system, you might notice it a little quicker. Versus a larger system, it's going to take a lot longer and a lot longer of a leak until you actually start to identify problems, cooling problems. That's where that sight glass I showed you guys, you won't notice efficiency differences, but that sight glass will start to be, filling up with bubbles as you lose your charge of Freon. So it's something that you can look at and say, hey, I know I already have a leak. My efficiency hasn't gone down really. I haven't noticed anything, but I'm getting low on Freon, or something actively is not proper. So that's kind of that preventative maintenance of looking at it and getting ahead of it before you dump that entire charge. Yeah, because you might notice it, like I said, you might not have a problem. You see those sight glasses, but you know something's going on. You might have only lost a pound at that point, where if you gave it another week or so, you might be completely dead out of charge. So at the end of the day, it's a closed system. When the leak is fixed and repaired, it should be repaired and fixed, right? Now that's saying leaks do evolve and they do come out and things happen, especially with all the new different refrigerants coming out. There's still a lot of research and development on new products. So, the best rule of thumb is just keep an eye on your sight glass, keep an eye on the unit, and make sure you're still cool.
Did everyone get the example? Did they see the video? I know it started as soon as you saw the bubbles and everything in there. All right, cool. Let's move on to boilers. This is, not everyone has a boiler, but it is something that should be keep an eye on. So essentially what you want to do is test your blowdown water and use a chart, kind of like you see up there, which you can't read, with pH, connectivity, all of the hardness, like all of those testing you want to do on your blowdown water to see and make sure that you're having a proper system. So if you're doing that, you'll know where to improve your process. So for instance, if you're not feeding your boiler with a water softener, soft water, you're going to eventually have buildup, right, in your lines. That's not what you want. If you have hard water, you know where to look, right? Okay, the water softener needs to be replaced. There you go. Look at your chart. Doing this every month or so to see where you stand and get ahead of a potential issue down the road. So another thing that we would suggest is chemical injection for your boiler as well. So maintaining your pH levels and dosing that as you're dosing your boiler. So that's going to also, both those two things are going to increase your boiler's life tremendously. I mean, you can and people are running it without those things, but you've basically cut your life in half or so with the boiler. So that's, again, easy thing to do. Get a chart. We can, if you want to reach out, we'll send you a chart. You can take that and start testing your blowdown water, see where you stand.
Yeah, at the very minimum, at least conductivity, guys. Conductivity is going to give a lot of weight for what's going on in your boiler. It's going to kind of give you a reading of about how much chemical and how much debris and crap is actually in your boiler. So, I mean, that alone is a really useful tool. This goes a little more in depth with the boiler. But definitely if you're filling something out like this every month, you're going to start to see a slight deviation. As soon as you start to see, hey, my PL and TL are deviating, 5% from the last 3 months, something's going on here. We're going to be able to take care of these problems before they become major problems and it shuts your boiler down for a week for a repair.
Yep. So again, like I was saying, water softener and chemical injection, what does that look like? This is our latest install in Oswego. We did water softener feeding the boiler, and then generally a chemical injection is just a bucket sitting on the floor with a pump. The way we install it is tying it into the condensate return pump. This could be used elsewhere, but
yeah, you kind of say, or sometimes you have a feed water as well.
Either way, if the pump's running, tie it to that, and it's the best way to ensure that you're having consistent product as opposed to a switch or just turning it on randomly or having it run all the time.
Basically, by keeping it on that pump there, you can go back to that. keeping it on the pump, every time that pump runs, you're filling your boiler with water, right? So it's consistent to filling your boiler with water for injecting the chemical into the system. There's people that shut their boiler down on a weekend, a long weekend or something. So if it's tied to that pump's not going to run. The injection pump's not going to run as well. So you get consistency to it. This next photo is stuff you don't want to see, right? This is calcium, magnesium buildup on your boiler. So you really should be probably inspecting your boiler once every, you could go once every year, once every 2 years, right? Physically opening your boiler and checking out the tubes on the inside. It's going to start. You can start to see corrosion building up. You can start to see pitting happening on your tubes. These things that might be going on that you're not noticing. So we definitely recommend to open it up. Things like this, right? This should be addressed. This is a leaking gasket that's leaking magnesium, calcium on top of the boiler. Your sensors can also get plugged up with that stuff as well. So taking a lot of that stuff apart and just cleaning that stuff up once a year, once every 2 years is going to be great practice. And if you start to see things like this, get it addressed. Don't let it continue to go. It's just going to create a bigger problem down the road.
That's everything we have for boilers. Any boiler related questions before we move on to heat exchangers? What's up, Billy?
Sorry, it's a dumb question, but how do you measure the conductivity of the boiler water?
With a conductivity sensor.
Yep. Yes.
So we have a boiler kit. It's basically, it has all the titrates and everything in it for that sheet we were telling you about. It's basically hardness, your sulfite level, PL, TL, conductivity, and we also throw pre-fire and post-fire in there. So when your boiler actually turns the gas on when it shuts off, those pressure switches alone, right? If you start to see, hey, it turns on at 8, or turns on at 8, shuts off at 10, whatever it may be, you go in 1 month and you're like, hey, it's turning on at 6 now and shutting off at 10. And you can tell your sensor's going bad before it actually goes bad, right? So filling out that sheet monthly, you can start to see those deviations and get ahead of the maintenance or get ahead of a problem before it actually becomes a problem. That's what we're trying to really get with here is there's a lot of these things that you guys on hand and on site can actually find these issues, and without it actually stopping production in your place, we can take care of those issues, call the right people in, and get it fixed without having to hurt losing product, losing beer, not brewing that day, taking your brew day Thursday, and now you can't brew Thursday, Friday, right? So avoiding those issues.
We had a question back there.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say for high pressure boiler, New York State requires the internal inspection once a year.
Yeah.
Low pressure, I think, is less frequently.
On low pressure, it depends on your location. Every county and town's a little different. What they expect, your code enforcer's basically gonna determine that. But general rule of thumb, once a year, once every 2 years. I'd say probably most brewers around here are running low pressure, but there's definitely quite a few high pressure out there as well.
Was that the question? I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know kind
For
of.
us, generally, that's tied to,
Your inspection,
there's an insurance implication too.
So on low pressure, I don't.
Yeah.
It depends where you are, but there's cases around us where there's no code, there's no inspection, it's not done. There's guys that aren't even doing it basically. So on low pressure boilers, because there's a part of their inspection process, they're basically looking at is your high limit working and is it feeding it basically clean water. That's really it. They don't care because low pressure it's less dangerous essentially, right? So they don't care as much about the internal inspection. If you're down in New York City, they probably do, but upstate it's just not enforced.
So.
Just a tip, I like to schedule my inspection and cleaning at the same time.
Absolutely.
So that I shut down once, everyone's there, again, everyone's in the same area, and
That's a great point. Yeah, especially if you have an inspector coming out to do it and they know what they're looking at. Have you all there and looking at it is a great tool.
Got it.
As a rule of thumb, don't heat the boiler. Is it better to turn it off or leave it?
That's a great question. So there's a lot of variables involved there. So realistically, what I tell a lot of people is, if you're going, if it's a long weekend, I would almost suggest shutting it down, because it is going to maintain that temperature throughout the piece. Now you use a lot of gas when you fire it back up, obviously. So it's really per basis, but For the most part, you can leave them running pretty much 24/7 unless there's an issue. It should maintain in that boiler and only fire a very, very low amount of times. Now there are more efficient boilers than others where that comes into play, but at the end of the day, I pretty much recommend to keep them on unless it's a long weekend. You're not brewing for, you don't need hot water, don't need the boiler, using it for, almost a week or so, half a week to a week.
That one back there too, right?
Yeah, sorry.
She nailed it.
Okay, cool.
Same question.
In your experience, is there any difference or additional maintenance on electric boilers versus gas?
That's a good question too. As far as the maintenance goes, I mean, not really. I mean, you still want to feed it with soft water and have the chemical injection, but as far as inspecting it, I mean, they're all obviously a ton smaller. They don't take up as much space. You're not inspecting, like the gas or flues at all. So, you still want to open up that boiler, at least pull your elements out probably once a year. But as far as the maintenance goes and like your pH testing and your testing, it's all exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Related to the should you turn the thing off? What chillers? Like when should you're not gonna.
So glycol chillers, on the other hand, if you're not using it, shut it down. Yeah, you're not hurting it. I mean, it's tough because if it's in the middle of the summer and you do shut it down and you try to go to fire it back up, you're gonna run the risk of kicking out on high head because your glycol temperature is could be 70, 80 degrees, right? And it's just not designed to really run at that temperature. So when you turn it on, you could run into issues in the summertime, but like during the winter or if it's cooler outside, for the most part, they're pretty good nowadays. I guess I would just caution if you did do it in the summertime, watch it for a little bit and make sure it is actually cooling because you're removing a lot of heat, right? Removing that heat, sometimes it's going to struggle. It's meant to probably go up to 40, 50 degrees down to 28, right, at most. So, yeah, there's a lot less benefits, I guess, or a lot less harm by shutting a chiller down, right? You're not really affecting much besides just not using it. You'll use a little more electric to fire it up, but yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to heat exchangers quick. So, who in this room has done the tedious task of cleaning the heat exchanger? Oh yeah. All right. So you guys probably know a thing or two about this, but for anyone who hasn't done it or has struggled to do it, there are a few tips here. So, the preventative maintenance piece of this is putting an inline filter before your heat exchanger. If you don't have that right now, I would definitely consider doing that, whether it's tar plumbing it in or through hoses. Either way, the only way to not clog your heat exchanger is to clog your filter before. So, anyways,
It's more a problem on guys that have boil kettle whirlpool combos, right? Where you don't get a great whirlpool and you're just pulling some of those hops out. If you have a separate whirlpool tank, you potentially may not need one. But if there's a risk of a T90 hot pellet going through there, guys, and if it's 1/4 inch or bigger, they're gonna get stuck in your corners. And I don't care what chemical you use or water you use, they just get stuck and they reverse flow it, and it's hard to get them out. I've had guys tell me they clean, and you take it apart, and in your corners, you still got hot debris on your gaskets and stuff. So it's not so much, right, a problem for infection, I guess, but off flavors is really what we're looking at here.
So inline filter before heat exchanger, and then the tedious tasks of
These are
cleaning
pretty
it.
bad ones that we've done before.
This is what we've seen.
With no filtration before the heat exchangers, this is what we're
Yes.
seeing inside.
So a couple tips. So before you begin, measure outside to outside of the plate. Mark that down, and that's gonna know how much you need to torque down on it to get it back to where it was. Start there, and
That
then
measurement's pretty critical. You're too loose, you'll start to leak. You're too tight, you're gonna start to compress the plates.
so get that measurement before you begin, and then Sharpie a line across.
I was just gonna say that's what I do.
Yep.
Yeah, on one corner, Sharpie a line all the way across on every single plate.
Exactly.
Take it out, set it down, one plate at a time, flip it over. When you pull one plate at a time, take it out, wash it. That mark should go back in the same spot every time. You shouldn't screw it up, right? It's an indicator. Shouldn't.
No one has that good of a memory, so yeah. just mark it and trust don't wash the Sharpie off, I guess. Then you'll be in good shape. Any questions about this? This is kind of simple, just some tips. So,
Do you have a type of filtration you recommend for heat exchanger?
yeah, like a angled inline filter. We generally will put like a 1,000 micron
So go back to
filters
that
with
photo.
flow.
So we've done them before where there's 2 in a row, right? So you basically, as you're knocking out, you run through one. If one clogs up on you, you open it up to the second one so you don't lose the path of flow. You can clean out that second one, send it to the drain, spray it out, and then stop the other one, go back. So if you have a lot of debris going through, I would almost suggest a dual filtration system. Go through one side, let it clog, or get close to it, go back on the other,
Yep.
clean this one out while you're using the other one, so on and so forth.
But yeah, just straight or angled inline filter with the housing should get the job done for you. So,
I'm just curious, for the people that don't have an inline filter, how often they clean out, and how often they take it apart?
the heat exchanger.
So my realistic answer is every single time. And the only, well, I guess not every single time if
How often are you cleaning the heat exchanger? Yeah,
you're cleaning it, yeah, if you don't have an inline strainer. I mean, if you're running,
like taking it apart, not.
oh, I got you, if you didn't have to, just on a maintenance basis, I'm like, yeah, I mean, so if you're running the inline strainers before it, I mean, probably once a year is good, once every 6 months to a year.
Just on the side for this, we hired one of these guys in line for it's oversized what we're doing.
Yep.
One of the best things we found for cleaning the thing was very standard cost of being infused rock setting into the thing.
Yeah, a booster.
That pulled out
Yeah,
so much more.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the peroxide will act as like an oxidizer, right? It'll be like an OxyClean. It'll
Yeah.
start to foam on organic soils and allow the cost to get behind it.
It
and do its
sounds
work.
like it's exploding on the inside, but it sounds.
It hurts. It hurts so good.
Yeah. Yeah, just, I mean, yeah.
Can I ask one more question about the filtration? Do you
Yes.
typically set that up so when you back flush CIP, the heat exchanger back flushes the filtration as well?
You can. Yeah, a lot of times if I'm back flushing it, I would assume it's all clean CIP water. At that time, it depends on the setup.
I guess I'm just asking, I guess more specifically.
To catch
how
it
you
so it
clean
doesn't
the
continue.
filter. Is that all just manual pull out?
Yeah.
It is in line, but I mean, obviously, I tell guys we clean them first, and then those are all in line, clean through the CIP. So, like on our systems, it's a lot of it's automated, and I mean, these valves are manual, but you can pick to choose if you want to run it through both or just one. But run it inline CIP. You can run them in line for sure to clean them. I suggest getting the debris out of them and then running it inline through. Yeah.
Yep.
Regarding like parts and gaskets and stuff like that, to have on hand in case something went awry.
Yeah, those gaskets definitely get old. I mean, we're doing a lot of heat exchanging through there, right? Boiling down to 50 degrees. There's a lot going on in there. So those gaskets take a beating. When you're taking those apart, if you're starting to get a ton of black residual, coming off of those gaskets, you're probably due for a change. It's not a bad idea. Now, will it seal back up and go? Yeah, but you're starting to leach some of that gasket material into your beer.
Right.
So what's the recommendation on it? It's tough. It's really due on how many hours you got on it and how much you're using it. So, man,
Or just to have some on hand.
yeah, it's definitely good to have a gasket on hand or two, because if you're taking it apart, you can definitely break them, and then you're like. So if you ever did break one, if you ever broke one plate or a gasket, I guess the trick is you have to remove 2 plates. Take two plates.
Yeah. Keep that in
Don't
mind.
take one. You'd have to take 2 plates, because every flow in the pitcher is a cross flow. So one side's beer, one side's water. Beer, water, beer, water, beer, water. So if you remove just one, you would start the cross flow. You would have to remove 2 in order to keep the flow correct. Every plate's a little different too, so especially on dual stages, depending where it is in the plate, that could be wrong. So don't quote me by that, but.
Sweet. We're gonna move on to pumps next.
Yeah, so basically all you guys got a ton of pumps, CIP pumps, brew house pumps. You got internal seals and external seals. Internal seals we've seen to be a little bit better with some of the stickier warts, stickier, even granular products, things like that. External seals we see a lot more on like CIP carts. There are still a lot of external seals on mash tuns, things like that. You can add a external water flush to that seal to kind of help and prevent that seal from leaking and kind of cleaning that seal surface. A lot of guys will see that. So really the distinction between, there's just tips and tricks to know what seals you have if you're trying to order the right ones and stuff. You have an adapter plate. That adapter plate's the item number 1 first there, and item number 4, right? 6 is your back plate. So that's where your seals are actually riding on. That's going to determine whether it's an internal seal or external seal. If it's on the back side of the back plate, it's an external. If it's on the inside of the back plate, it's going to be an internal seal kit. That being said, if you go to the next photo, this is one of the biggest things that I probably see in the breweries is when you're running a seal kit that rides directly onto the back plate. It's going to score the back plate, okay? You're actually riding on the back plate and it'll actually score that stainless over time. You're going to have problems with your pump, it'll start to leak, your seal will go bad, right? You go to put a new seal back in there. If you put a new seal back in on those plates when they're already scored, you've basically cut your life in half on your seal kit. So what we do in shop, take a Bridgeport, right? We're looking to remachine that flush. The answer is either buy a new backplate or you find a local machine shop maybe and go have it machined flush again. Get rid of those grooves, okay? That's going to reflatten it back up and get a new mating surface for that seal to ride on. So there are seal kits out there that have like an insertion piece where it doesn't ride on the actual back plate of the motor. I try to suggest a lot of those motors because then you can replace just a seal kit. It's a little less expensive doing a seal kit. These are usually like your C100 series pumps, some of your external C114s that ride right on those back plates. So that's probably the biggest thing I run into is guys will have a leaky pump. They try to put the seal kit in themselves. 2 weeks later, it's leaking again. And they're like, guys, I just don't know what's going on. And I look at it and the back plate looks like that. I'm like, well, that you have a perfectly flush seal on a grooved surface. You're just not going to have a great sealing time there. So that's definitely a big one. The next biggest one would be corrosion between your adapter plate and your electric motor. So the photo, yeah, there's an even better photo. So that's your adapter plate to your back plate, okay? So what we're looking, go back 2 more photos. What we're looking for, that adapter plate goes up to your electric motor. And if you have an aluminum faced motor, you're going to start to get corrosion between whether it's stainless or even regular steel. You start to build a little bit of corrosion between that adapter and where it actually mounts to that motor. The whole point of the seal kit is you have your motor and your bearings coming out to try to seal something 100% perpendicular to it. What ends up happening is that corrosion starts to grow and it actually throws your adapter plate off, okay? So your adapter plate's sitting like this, your shaft's coming out straight and your adapter plate's at an angle, which then puts your back plate at an angle. So now you're trying to seal something straight that does have an angle to it. So corrosion between your adapter plate and or on both sides, between your back plate and your motor side. Both of those sides are going to be most important to be 100% clean before you put it back together. If there's, it doesn't take much. You'd really be surprised. A little bit of that corrosion on the bottom, on that right-hand photo, you can see it on the back plate to that mild steel adapter. It throws it off, right? And you're just trying to seal inaccurate. They leak. It'll never really hold a seal. It'll leak the first day you put it back on it. So if you have a seal kit where you're like, hey, I put a seal kit in this thing every couple weeks or once a month or something like that, and you're really, really struggling with it, I would tend for you guys to pull that adapter plate all the way off and check those faces of your motors. If it's aluminum, a lot of times they'll start to corrode and build up. If it's all stainless, just clean it up, right? But everyone, pumps are cheaper with aluminum motors. So there's a lot of them out there. That bottom photo there would be your C face on the motor, and that's what you're looking for is that aluminum corrosion. When that builds out, it throws that adapter plate off, and your seals have a real hard time sealing. It's a lot of information, but
Those were our pump section there. Any pump questions before before we move on to air compressors, which is the last bit. And then we'll have time for questions as well. All right.
One other thing
Everyone
I could add quick is in the actual seal piece, when it goes on your shaft, if there's actually something that locks the seal to the shaft, you can lube up your O-ring well and make sure it slides on your shaft well. But if you have, there's a lot of seals out there that don't attach the actual rotating seal to the shaft. You got to be careful lubing those guys. If you lube them, they'll actually spin the shaft inside the O-ring and ruin the seal as well.
Yep.
So it's a little more in depth, but another little trick.
Yes, there is such thing as over-lubing as well. All right, air compressors. This is our last section here. The easiest thing to do to avoid moisture in your equipment is putting an air dryer in between your compressor and your equipment. So if you don't have one, we would highly suggest doing that. If you don't have one, your air filters might look sort of like the picture. That's like an incredibly extreme example, but you'll start seeing moisture, dirt, brown, sludgy kind of stuff, and that's, again, you want to be feeding it perfectly dry air. And then the simple things like changing your filters pre and post, simple things to do
Yeah,
to
if you're
maintain
getting
your air
liquid back
pressure.
to your guys' canning line, things like that. It's just water. It's going to build corrosion inside your equipment, or if it's any pneumatic components, you're going to ruin the seals inside your pneumatic components. So your equipment's just going to get torn up, especially in a brewery, whether you're canning or you have a automated brew house, or I don't know what else you keg washer, right? You want good clean air for your keg washer. You could be sending that water right to your keg during your airflow, right? So oil's coming out of your air compressor, we recommend filters pre and post your air dryer. The pre's basically eliminating any oil or water, a lot of that stuff getting into your dryer and ruining it. That's probably one of the biggest culprits I would say that I see of ruining air dryers is nobody putting a filter post air compressor pre air dryer, and basically letting the oil from the air compressor get into the air dryer and then ruining the system. Just making good clean air, guys. Those are usually like little filters that are found on your pieces of equipment. You should be checking those all the time. If they're brown, nasty, dirty water, something's wrong in your system, or you should start to come up with a solution to make better air quality air, I guess. Mm-hmm. Normal maintenance: change the oil, change the air filter on it, check the V belts on it, make sure they're not cracked, make sure they're running well. Make sure it's not squealing, and replace it as needed. Honestly, manufacturer recommendations, just look at the manual, guys, and go off what they're going. If not, good rule. If you don't use it that often, good rule of thumb, maybe every 6 months, change your oil.
Sweet. Any air compressor questions or issues out there? Word. All right, what we got?
On the air dryer, would that be similar maintenance to the compressor, condenser on?
Yeah, as far as cleaning your condensers out, honestly, they're usually not in that bad of environments. A lot of times you can just, kind of use the compressed air to kind of hose those out. If your condenser, does start to build stuff up, then you can foam it out as well. But yeah.
Okay, so not related to air compressors. Questions are open now. I just want to recap what we went through very vaguely. Chillers, preventative maintenance, easy troubleshooting. We had our boilers that we went through, the maintenance that we can do there, more monitoring than anything else. Heat exchangers, pumps, and air compressors. So happy to answer any question that came up that was not answered throughout the presentation so far.
Sorry. When it comes to software or say a maintenance program in the plan, what do you recommend that way to start? Do you recommend with a spreadsheet to sheets or
Yeah.
Is there any entry level reminder system that you have hey, on April 20th, check this?
I would do just use Google services. So Google Calendar, put it in a recurring, repeatable event in your calendar, right? Shows up monthly, whatever it is. And Excel/Google Sheets. I mean, those are just free, super easy tools to use. Just have a log that you can go and look at trends. But yeah, Google Calendar is definitely, or any calendar system really, is helpful to just have recurring notifications to keep you on track, because we all forget. So, yes.
Regarding boiler maintenance and cleaning, is that something that should be done yearly, or like it's a service, right? So somebody comes in and does it for you?
Yeah, you can. So like our recommendation is fill out that sheet monthly, and that honestly, if you fill out that sheet monthly, I would just, and it's all within spec, I would check out your boiler, open it up once a year.
Okay.
You know,
Well, like cleaning,
if
cleaning the whole system, like.
tearing it down, your sensors and
Yeah.
everything, I would do it right with that 1 year mark.
Okay.
With everything else, yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Frequent customer. So,
Currently starting a maintenance program for it, so this is.
Perfect.
Yeah, cool.
Good. I hope we
So,
helped.
I'm in Canada, working.
nice.
I like you guys.
It's not our fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we buy a handful of equipment from the States, and one of the issues is that it takes us, like, I can't just, it says made it in the States like that, I can't get it across the border, like it'll take 2 weeks or something for a piece this long. So we run a handful of things on that 2 is 1, 1 is 1 principle, where if we absolutely need something, we have to have 2 of it, like, we have 2 light bulb chillers, we have 2 air compressors. Wow. We're a yeast lab. So like the air compressor goes in.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah.
So it's important for us. I'm curious, like, how do you determine for some of these things whether or not you run into failure or whether you have redundancy? Is there any point where you
Redundancy. I mean, yeah. Redundancy is key. I mean, there's certainly bigger items that would be more needed than others, but to sit here and tell you I would know that, I'd be lying, yeah. I mean,
are there any certain pieces of equipment you see, like, I'm looking at my boiler right now, where it's a bit older, and I'm trying to figure out, do I get a second one, do I upgrade it now, or do I run it with failure? So I'm just curious how you, like,
how you determine something like that.
yeah, like, when you're looking at.
So a visual inspection inside the boiler is going to tell you what you want to know. If you're starting to see corrosion and pitting and stuff like that inside the boiler, you're probably getting closer to a rebuild on it, and you might be money ahead getting rid of it. But if you can find a local guy to rebuild it, I mean, if it's not that old and it just wasn't treated well, it might be worth rebuilding. Components that I'd stock, you know, I probably wouldn't do an entire boiler, but certainly all the electrical components for sure. There's your switches and level
Is there
sensors.
anything that you see for any of these things that you know often require longer times to get the part in, so that if you have a certain piece of work, I know it's gonna take 2 months.
Yeah.
I have it to some.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it really, it's on a basis by basis thing. The compressors, I mean, pumps, electrical components are huge for sure. But it's a changing market, just like it is for you guys. It is for us too.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID was crazy.
Lead times tend to change.
Lead
all the
times,
time.
yeah, change. We got suppliers that, well, refrigeration by chance, right? So refrigeration's really evolving and changing in chillers right now. In New York State, actually tried passing. Well, they did. It went through where they basically banned 404A. It was essentially no longer allowed to be used in new installs, and the refrigerant basically went off the market. There was guys lined up at our shop buying pallet loads because they basically said they couldn't get their hands on it anymore. So those are things that are, you know, eventually going down the road, and 404A is a huge refrigerant used in probably 50%, 50% of a lot of the refrigeration, whether it's a walk-in cooler or chiller right now. And in New York State, I mean, it's a state-by-state basis, you know, right? Everything's a little different, but it could be, you know, we could find out tomorrow, hey, we can't get that anymore, and now the lead time for a new refrigerant could be longer. So unfortunately, there's scenarios like that you just can't get rid of. But
There's been issues with, H404 and H405 substitute for it. heard some people say that some of the stuff out there.
No, there's there's certainly drop-in replacements, but that's probably a topic for another day. You could go in for days about that. It's all shifting towards like CO2, ammonia, less ozone warming potential refrigerants and all stuff like that. But
I guess I'm just curious. Are you running into situations where you go to clients and see that they do not have a PM schedule?
yeah. So, I mean,
There should be a
there's a lot of
checklist, right? Daily checklist,
Yeah,
monthly
it should be daily
checklist.
So this is really just trying to help those guys that don't have the money or the ability to afford outside company to come in and do a lot of this work for you. These are the easy things you can kind of tell to save on a budget a little bit and say, hey, before it becomes that real big issue and I'm shut down, at least I have keys now to kind of look and identify some of those issues. And get the right person in there. I don't always think you need a PM guy. If you're a smaller guy, if you're doing a lot of these checklists, I think you'd be okay. And it's always nice to have an HVAC friend or a boiler guy, but it's not always feasible.
Yep. Kevin.
Can you go back to the Freon dye? Can you recommend a product and do you dose it into the Freon or you spray it on the outside of the machine looking for leaks?
Yep, so it's an inject into the Freon. And there's a specific amount per how many poundage of refrigerant. I mean, I would recommend you to talk with your local technician or, certified HVAC tech, just to do it properly, because if you inject too much or whatever, you can start to...
And is there a special light or you said glasses?
It's just a blue light. It's a blue light and it's a set of like yellow glasses. It comes in a kit. Yeah, they make kits out there. I don't know the brand that specifically that we use, but there's one huge brand that is well known at pretty much every refrigeration company out there. They all have it on their shelf. Yeah.
Usable for kitchen equipment too.
Oh yeah, anything. It's those microscopic it's those hard leaks. I mean, honestly, we have electronic leak detectors and everything, but sometimes it can be very difficult to find leaks. So that's why I've heard it's in the industry numerous stories where I just have a guy come back every couple months to slap a charge in it and keep me going, right? How often do I hear that? Two more than I should. It's just something you can ask your technician, right? Ask your technician, hey, have you heard of this before? I heard about it in the thing. Can we inject this with dye? And then at least you can kind of monitor it. If it's not depleting your efficiency, at least you can go out there with a blue light and glasses every day and say, hey, I found the leak. Can now come back and fix it. So the biggest thing is you got to have a license, right, to even hook your gauges up to these things. So if you guys don't have your license, you don't have your gauges, it's these easy things or other things you can do to try to know what's going on without actually hooking gauges up to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously there's other things that happen that you're not going to know, but...
I think there's one more question I think we'll have to kind of end after this one.
I was just, speaking of like an integrated maintenance program, aside from Google checklists.
Yeah.
We decided at some point to invest in the CMMS system where, everything gets logged basically in the plant map, and anytime you do PM or unplanned maintenance, it gets tracked. You enter all your invoices for that piece of equipment, and then when you talk about running something to failure or looking at what is really causing the problems in the plant, you can make those decisions because garbage in, garbage out, like all the information, if you take the time to put it in there, you can say, we didn't do the PM on the air compressor, so we spent this much in unplanned maintenance.
Yeah, I'm sure there's certainly programs out there that do that. I'm not a software guy. But yeah, I'm sure there's companies out there that have that. You can set it up with that. For sure.
Any other questions?
Awesome.
Chris, thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
This is